So we will get started now. Welcome again to all our 4-H members across the province. Happy to have everybody joining us tonight for our Inter-County 4-H Speaker Series. We have some exciting speakers tonight, and we're really delighted to jump right into listening to them tell us about their dairy operation. Before we do that, we'll just ask everybody if you can unmute yourself, and we will get started with the 4-H pledge. And I see Megan on the line. Megan, if you don't mind unmuting yourself and leading us in the pledge tonight.
Yes, sure. Okay, ready? Can everyone raise their right hand, please? And we'll start. I pledge my head to clear thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to service, my hand to better living, my love, my community, my country, and my world.
Excellent. And thanks to Megan F. Megan B got off. I actually saw Megan B on the screen, but Megan F jumped in there for you. So saved by the bell tonight, Megan. So I'm going to turn it right over to Payton, who's going to introduce our speakers tonight.
Our speakers tonight are Daniel, Bacon, and Stacy Luckhardt of Brooklyn, Jersey Holsteins. Daniel and his fiancee Stacy are third generation of Brooklyn, Jerseys, working part-time on the farm with Daniel's parents, Robert and Sandra Bacon, in Northern Victoria, Australia. Daniel currently also works off farm as a ruminant nutritionist for Reed Stock Feeds, working with approximately 18,000 mostly dairy cows and a few beef feedlots. Stacy, originally from Fonthill, Ontario, is currently working at a commercial calf rearing business, Calfling, in administration and data analysis, where they raise 5,000 calves a year from a week old. Daniel and Stacey look forward to talking about the Australian dairy industry, Brooklyn, Jerseys, and their experiences within the dairy industry that makes them love it.
Excellent. Thanks, Payton. And so we're going to turn it right over to our speakers.
Thanks, Payton. Thanks for introducing us. You've done a wonderful job. Hello to everyone. It's a little daunting for me and Stacey to be talking in front of so many people. So if you have any questions or anything at any point, please yell out. We'll try to keep it as informal as possible. I'm not very good with technology, so I'll try share the screen, and it's very good to see some familiar faces of our friends from over there. G'day, Kim.
Yeah. Hi, guys.
So we're thinking,
just make sure.
Can everyone see that first of all? Yep.
Yep, we're good. We can see it.
Yep, that's good. So pretty much what I was thinking of doing, we'll go through and talk a little bit about our farm, how we run, what we've done, and where we're heading in the future. Then talk a little bit about the Australian dairy industry, and then probably our connections throughout the world and what we love about the dairy industry. But if you want to stop us at any point for questions, feel free. We'd really enjoy that. Unfortunately, Stacey's made me do most of the speaking tonight over there, this morning there, because she's a little bit nervous. But if you have any questions for her, please ask her. In the first photo I have here are my parents, myself and Stacey. Brookborough, Jersey was established in 1963. My father came home on the farm when he was 16, and him and my mother bought his brother out in 2002. Up until the late 90s, it was
Daniel?
Jerseys and, yep.
Sorry, if you don't mind if I just interrupt you. I think if you click on your pictures, we can just see the small thumbprints, the thumbnail prints right now.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, this was one of the smaller pictures. The next one should be a little bigger. When I copied it off my phone, it wasn't as big. can you see that any better or?
I see all your pictures. I don't know if everybody else does, but I see your whole slideshow as opposed to just one picture on the screen.
That might be Australian internet, I'd say, which might make it difficult.
I can, depending on the devices that people are on, I can actually zoom in on Daniel's screen. So I can zoom in and make the picture really big on my screen. So some other people, depending on what device they're on, if they're on a computer, they may not be able to, but if they're on a tablet or a phone, they'll be able to zoom in on the pictures, and then you can see them bigger.
Can you hear me?
Is that better?
You can, Kevin?
Yeah. If it helps at all, you can actually hit, well, when you're in the other screen, there's a thing that says view in the top corner. If you hit extra large icons.
I think we've got it figured out now. If
Yeah,
everyone
it's
can
working.
see
I can see it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I think, Daniel, you're good now. We can see the big picture. Excellent.
That's good. If that doesn't work again, please let me know straight away. Yeah, so hopefully now you can see my parents and Stacey and myself. Yeah, up until the late 90s, we were a Jersey and Holstein farm, and at that point, we built a new dairy that was only fitted jerseys, and we went 100% jerseys. Not to say that we don't like all other breeds, but we're Jersey people at heart. And yeah, Mum and Dad bought the farm off the rest of the family in the early 2000s, and from there they've continued. In terms of the farm structure, Dad does we're pretty much 80% all self-sufficient in terms of feed. We grow all our own feed. We have 700 acres. 400 of that is irrigatable due to the Australian climate. Over summer, without irrigation, which that irrigation water comes from about 500 kilometres away through channels and pipes and stuff. So yeah, over in the hills, which yeah, because otherwise I think the climate here we get about 300 mils of rain for the year. So we catch most of that over there, and it comes over and grows our crops. In terms of, and then so Dad does the growing of the feed and most of the animal management. Mum is in charge of the calf rearing and day-to-day organisation and all the bookwork. And then Stacey and myself are slowly transitioning back into the farm. Stacey does 4 or 5 milkings a week for us, and she also does a lot of the calf rearing. And I'm now back on the farm. Well, I work as a nutritionist 30 hours a week, and then probably the rest of the time I'm on the farm, try to do as much as I can, and hopefully in the future I'll be back there full time. Here you can see this is our Jersey herd. We're milking we get up to about 280 to 300 cows at peak production. As you can see, it's probably slightly different to what I imagine you're used to in Canada. Our cows are at no point throughout the year live inside. We have no barns or shelter for the cows, so they're out grazing 365 days a year, which has its positive and negatives. We really like the fact that they're out walking, seeing on green grass and in a fresh space every day. Another picture of them out grazing. So our cows predominantly, probably 2/3 of their ration is made up of grass throughout the year. except for the peak of summer when we have to substitute with a bit of either loosened silage or wheat hay or whatever we've grown throughout the previous year. This photo here, I kind of like. It probably shows twice a day the cows have to walk back to the dairy or the parlour, as you probably say it over there, which cows can walk up to 4 to 5 kilometres a day. And that probably goes with when we have international people come over and see Australian cows, they really admire their foot and leg, just because our cows have to really have good feet and legs to be able to walk so far. As 4 or 5 k's is a long way. I wouldn't like to do it myself too often. You're probably wondering why I'm showing a photo of a mansion. Mum and Dad actually got back from holidays on the weekend, and this is a little property outside of Melbourne. This is where a lot of our bloodlines have been got imported to in the early 1900s. And for us on our farm, depth of pedigree is very important, and we can trace most of our pedigrees back to 1900s, where they were imported from Jersey Island. This photo here is our dairy. So when we're milking up to 280 to 300 cows, this is where we put them through twice a day. On average, I think we worked out it takes us every half an hour we can milk 100 cows. So generally, at the peak of calving, we takes us about an hour and a half from start to finish to milk our full herd. As a family or a business, we really try to embrace technology and have less reliance on hired help. At the moment, there is only the 4 of us that work on the farm for our herd, and with that, we try to really invest in our dairy with automatic cup removers. We've got an automatic draft gate which can draft cows off for breeding, or if we have to treat a sick cow when they walk out. We've got automatic teat spraying, milk meters, and in terms of technology, every cow on the farm's currently genomic tested on the Australian system, and I think 2/3 of the herd is tested on the American and Canadian systems, and we hope to get that up to 100%. Because as a philosophy for our farm, we believe we're only as good as our bottom cow. We do like having really nice top end cows, but we really try to focus on every cow in our herd and making sure we can do the best by them. That's in terms of the dairy. This is the holding yard for the dairy. So this can hold up to 340 cows, but this also double acts. You can now see there's a shed over the top, which I believe we installed about 18 months ago. This is actually a part of our cow health program. During the middle of summer, it can get up to, at worst, 44, 45 degrees Celsius. So they'll actually spend a lot of the afternoon under this shed. And then they'll have on the side where you see the fences, the sprinklers. So we have timers on the sprinklers, and they'll come in every half an hour, stand under that for half an hour, and then walk out to the back where we have a feed pad where they eat their hay and silage of the afternoon. We just try to look after, because obviously 45 degrees is quite hot. We try to do it the best we can to look after them. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I just wanted to ask, how many cows do you milk total? I don't know if I missed it, if you already said it or not.
So we'll peak at 280, but it would be around 340, with the intention in the next few years to get to around that 350 at peak. So potentially I could be at home full time on the farm. But I'm currently really enjoying my job, so I can't really speed that process up too much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kim.
And Daniel, there's a question come in here to me. Just wondering what the temperatures are like. Can you describe the the weather a little bit?
That's probably a better one coming from Stacey because she's probably seen the extremes of it. I'm a little bit more used to it. But how would you find 45 degrees at the peak of summer?
Yeah, it gets pretty warm. You wake up in the morning about 6 and it's already probably 25, 30 degrees. And then by about 11 a.m., it can get up to 40. So that goes mainly from December until about March, and then it cools off into autumn and winter, where today it was 2 degrees in the morning and it'll get up to about 15 in the middle of winter.
And on that, like Australia is a very diverse country in terms of its landscape. One of my good friends milks cows up near Cairns, and that would be completely different. Like it gets to a high of 34, but it is I'm not good at explaining humidity, but it is as humid as it comes. And so, yeah, that's the interesting thing about the Australian agriculture. Like it changes so much from one side of the country to the other.
I have a question. I'm not a member, but this is something I'm curious about. In Canada, we don't deal with, with poisonous animals and things like that. Do you ever have, is that something you have to worry about? Snakes, spiders, is there concern for the cows when they're outside? Is that like, for us, predator control is keeping bears and coyotes away. But what sorts of, do you have issues with the cows being outside all the time with predators and things like that?
The biggest risk would probably be the newborn calves and foxes. We try to collect the calves at least twice a day. Otherwise, there is a chance that the fox will come and have a bit of a bite.
That being said, we've probably only lost one in 10 years, maybe.
Very slim.
In terms of snakes and spiders, growing up with them, you probably don't really see it as an issue. Yes, we probably have some of the most poisonous snakes in the world, but yeah, you might, similar to the foxes, we might have lost one heifer in the last 10 years to them. They're more scared of us than we are of them as such. If you leave them alone and don't annoy them, they'll be fine. That being said, you'd never really want to see one. So yeah, it's a concern, but we haven't seemed to have too many issues yet.
So Daniel, we do have a few hands up, so maybe I'll just go to a few of our members. Payton?
Have you ever had to deal with cattle getting heat stroke or other heat related like sicknesses?
It's probably actually during summer when you have a big heat period and then it cools down. Like that's when the most risk of pneumonia and a few of them issues come in. Like when you have 4 or 5 days of 40 degrees and then all of a sudden the fifth day will be back to 18 to 22 degrees. The cows are actually very good at adapting to the hot weather. And as long as you can keep them in routine and consistent, and that's the sprinklers, and we use the All Flex collars that we bought through CMEX for the cows. They give us a herd rumination score, and you can see when they're starting to drop off on their rumination. That's genuinely when we bring them back under the sprinklers and cool them off again. But yeah, it's generally the middle of January is the hardest time, and we try to keep on top of it, but it's long days because you're with the cows all day long trying to make sure you get the most out of them and look after them, because it's not long after our joining season too, so we're trying to maintain pregnancy.
And we've got a question from Cam.
Yeah, I was wondering if you guys milk all year round or if you just do it seasonally and have cows dry all at once for a period.
That's a good question, a very good question. That is probably something we do differently than what you see in Canada, because we don't really have a quota system as such, so we don't have to maintain a flatness. So we calve 2 times a year for 9 weeks, and that will be in the April, May period, and then August, September. So on any given day, we can have up to 10 to 15 cows calve. And then, yeah, so we're calving at the minimum, we're normally milking 150 cows.
Year
Year-round. So, and it's critical in breeding season that we get everything right because you've only got a short window to get it right. And we try to match that up with the spring peak production of pasture so we can make milk as cheap as possible. That's why we're calving in August, September. And then in April, May is when generally we get paid most for our milk. So that's how we probably calve 40% of our cows in that time of year.
And one more question from Mackenzie.
So do you have like a lot of calves each day? Like calves just having pregnancies every day?
Yeah. So yeah, in the spring calving period, would have 160 cows to calve over 9 weeks. So yeah, I think our busiest day in the last calving season was 12 heifers. No, sorry, 12 cows calved, and then yeah, we had 8 heifers in that we had to feed and get colostrum and get in twice a day. So yeah, when in the middle of the calving season, it's quite busy.
Oh, and how many baby calves do you have a year?
We usually try to keep 80 to 90 heifers, and then 10 to 20 bull calves that either we sell to local farmers or farmers throughout Australia. And if we have a good run of luck, maybe a few that we try to put into the AI system. And then our bottom 20% of cows are now getting bred to beef, which then the business Stacey works for picks up at a week old to go rare for feedlots.
And one more question, Daniel. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you there. One more question coming in from Charlie.
Someone already stole my question in the chat.
I haven't seen the chat.
No problem. And the question in the chat is it all AI or do you have breeding bulls?
The milking herd is 100% AI and probably has been for 10 years. The heifers, the best 50% get 1 round of sex semen, and then they get put in with bulls. Probably the best couple of bulls that we have that didn't quite make AI, the AI team. So yeah, in terms of the milking herd, we've gone 100% that way. With bulls, there's always a risk, and we're just trying to limit having more bulls on farm than we need to. Good question.
I think that's it for our questions for now, Daniel. So keep going though. I'm sure there'll be more come in a bit.
Perfect. This photo here probably shows how we feed our cows on the feed pad. We try to run a very simple system. We used to have a mixer wagon and stuff, but now we're back to just grass, a grain mix that we supply through my work, and they'll either get hay or silage on the feed pad. I kind of like this picture. It was the front cover of the American Jersey Journal in February 2018, it says. So that was quite a proud moment for our farm. In terms of, there was a few questions around calf rearing. In terms of calf rearing, they spend the first 2 weeks in hutches. They're collected within the first few hours after calving, made sure they're getting really good colostrum, and then they're on 2 litres twice a day for 10 weeks. After the first couple of weeks in the hutches, then they get grouped up into groups like this. And then after that, once they're weaned, they go out onto another one of our farms which we've got a 7-year lease on, into groups of their age group, which will be probably 40 or 50, and they'll be in that group up until a few weeks before calving as a 2-year-old. Someone asked about how hot it gets. This photo here, this was the afternoon before we moved into International Dairy Week, I think about 3 years ago. There's a couple of Canadians in this photo actually. It was 46 degrees at a high that day, and we're really feeling the heat. So this is the channel actually that brings the irrigation water to our crops to grow the crops throughout the year. Just as a side note. Showing's been a big part of our operation, but it hasn't always been that way. I think until I was 15 years old, we'd actually never shown a cow on our farm. Mum and Dad had always bred good cows and had good cows and been a registered farm for a long time, but it just wasn't their thing, which is completely fine. This photo here, is our first ever blue ribbon at International Dairy Week. For those that don't know, International Dairy Week's the biggest show in the Southern Hemisphere, and I think it's the 6th biggest show in the world. It's about an hour and a quarter from us here in Northern Victoria. And this was, one of my all-time favourite cows. She was first place senior 2, and she went on to be intermediate champion that day, which was kind of cool because, as I said, we haven't always shown, and probably 3 years prior, I was questioning showing. We took 5 cows there, and we didn't have any. I think 2 of them were dead last, and the other 3 were outside the top 10, and you were really questioning whether we should be spending all this money on doing this stuff, which it's not all about winning and doing well, and obviously you got to enjoy what you do, but it was kind of cool to be 3 years later winning intermediate champion at one of the biggest shows in the world. On the halter, you actually see Jen Charlton. Some of you might know her. She's an Ontario girl. I just got to play.
And Daniel, maybe a couple more questions coming in just here for you. So the first one is, do you have trouble maintaining a high butter fat in the heat, or is butter fat not as important due to no quota system?
Butter fat's becoming more and more important in this country, and it's getting paid more and more for. Currently, we're running about a 5.3 on our butter fat and a 3.8 on our protein. During summer, it is more challenging, and I guess that's where my role comes into it as a nutritionist, finding different techniques and ways to maintain our butter fat. If we're doing everything right by the cows and got the ration balance and keeping consistency, we don't generally have too much of a challenge. I think at a minimum, the lowest we'll get to throughout the year is a 4.8. It's probably protein's the biggest challenge in heat because they lose so much energy in maintenance, and we get paid more for milk protein over here. That's probably the biggest challenge we have. And as I said earlier, especially around that time, you're trying to maintain our milk protein, especially after the breeding season too, and trying to maintain pregnancy. So keeping the energy up in that time of year is critical.
And then Charlie had a question wondering how many bulls you have at your farm.
Currently, we have 2 2-year-old bulls that are running with the maiden heifers. At the moment, we have 5 or 6 12-month-old bulls, and then we've probably kept another 8 or 9. They're still on milk bulls or just weaned. We generally sell most of them around 15 to 18 months to local farmers for their breeding. But the demand for the Jersey bulls in this country has never been as high, so we're selling a lot more at younger ages at the moment and going a lot further. I think, yeah, last year we sold bulls into 3 to 4 different states of the country. Was there any more questions, Jennifer?
No, you're good to keep going.
Yep. This is another one of my favorite photos. Probably this is from last dairy week when we showed, I think there was about 12 milk cows and 18 heifers, of which 10 or 12 of them were for us, and then we showed a few for other people. And it just goes to show how much, like, there's a lot of people in this photo and how much work goes into it by that final day to get cows out as well as we can at that show. Yeah, and it was probably the best show that we've ever had, and we're really proud of what we put out, and to be able to win Premier Breed and exhibit at that show was one of my favourite memories I'll ever have. So, but yeah, it just shows how many people, if you surround yourself with good people, generally good things come. That same day, this cow here was reserve senior champion and best udder of the show. She's from our Love Lies family. Craig Cochran's on the halter. He's one of the owners that we sold to. And probably in the last 12 months, with the changing landscape of the world, online marketing's become more and more prevalent. And it's kind of interesting to see the story of this family. We posted a photo of her when she won a class at one of our shows down in Gippsland, and they bought half share off the photo they saw on Facebook because they loved her that much. And this was 5 or 6 years later, and she did really well. And then the next photo is actually her daughter, who we recently sold in the last month, off pretty much one of these photos, this photo here, putting it online, so 2 generations of it. And she sold for the second highest price, we think, of a Jersey cow in this country. So we're pretty, well, she was a cow that we didn't really want to let go because she was probably our best cow for the future, but I guess we just had to back ourselves into breeding another really good one. So, and we're really excited by this cow's future. I think they're trying to get embryos into Canada and America at the moment. The new owners, there's owners on her from New Zealand, the US and Australia, I believe. And 2 days after that was the Australian Jersey AGM, where her Craig daughter broke the record for an unjoined Australian bred heifer, and yeah, they paid $20,000 for her, which is quite exciting for us, and we look forward to following them along in the future.
I'm still seeing the picture here of Jen Charlton showing. I don't know.
Yeah,
what
same thing.
Oh, shoot.
Shoot, sorry. Where are
You've opened too many photos.
What can you see now?
I still see the same picture. Oh no, I see the calves now.
And now?
I see different.
Oh, there we go. There's the group picture.
Okay, so we'll just wind back a bit. Sorry about that. Yeah, that was the group picture of Dairy Week that we were really proud of, and the people that we had around us. And yeah, that was that one. If you see the next photo, that was the original cow that I was talking about that we sold. And then this was the daughter that we just recently sold for the second top price in Australia for a Jersey cow, or second or third, we're not entirely sure. And then this was the calf that broke the Australian record. Yeah, if we stuff it up again, let us know. Another photo from International Dairy Week, one of my favourites, just because it's 3 of my favourite Australian Jersey cows. The cow on the left broke the Australian record for the highest price Jersey. I think there's owners from America and even Canada. I think Andrew and Jen Vandermeulen are on the cow, Van Fernleaf. And then the middle cow is probably one of Australia's sweethearts in Illusion, who's probably won everywhere she's gone. And on the right's probably my favourite cow we've ever bred in T-Bone Bonita. She was our first ever 94-point cow. And yeah, it's just really nice to be in the line with them two cows in front of us. And this probably was the funnest show we've ever been to, and probably the best group of cows we've ever had. Stacey has the T-Bone Bonita cow on the left, and Simon Cognola, who's pretty important to our farm, does all our fitting these days, and one of our close friends, leading the Mavis cow that we showed earlier, winning intermediate champion at Dairy Week. They were reserve and honourable mention champion at New South Wales State Show, which is about up near Sydney. That's 9 hours from where we live, which is a long way for us to travel, but it was well worth it this day. I talked about it earlier, but for us as a farm, we like to have a consistent herd, and for this was the first time we ever won pen of 3 at International Dairy Week. We're only as good as our worst cow, and to have a group of 3 like this, we're really proud of. And especially, even probably more important for me, is the 3 people on the halter. On the right, my best friend and probably one of my mentors and our farm mentors, and has helped us through a lot, and Ben Govett. And then Simon Tognola, who does all our fitting. And then there's a young lady on the left that does a really good job for us too. This photo here was back in March, I believe. This was a really exciting time for us because it was the first show after COVID had cancelled all our shows. So yeah, we had quite some success, but for us, it was just good to get back and see our friends and catch up and just do what we love with everyone that we know in the industry. I think this is one of the last of the show photos. This was the Mavis cow. Probably a pretty important photo to us as a farm. We weren't going to go to this show because we were a bit busy on the farm with sowing crops, etc. But we're glad we did. She probably looked as well as she ever did, and it was in the end it was her last show because we lost her not long after this due to some calving difficulties. So I guess sometimes you just got to make time to do the things you love, and you'll have them memories forever. Payton, do you have a question?
Yeah, when you're trucking calves to shows, like when you said you go to one that's 9 hours away, what do you do to keep them cool in the trailer or whatever you truck them in?
So that show that's 9 hours away is in October, so it's actually not too bad of temperatures. It's the highs of 28 to 30. So that's also kind of why we like the show. Like, in terms of International Dairy Week, it probably couldn't be the worst time of year because it's in January and it's the hottest time of year. And we've had quite a few Canadians come over and they've really struggled with it. My friend Sandy Cole, I think one day I picked him up at the airport. It was negative 30 degrees in Nova Scotia. And 48 hours when we picked him up at the airport, it was 40 degrees, and it took him a fair few days to recover.
The best way we try to manage the heat when we're trucking them is we take them real early in the morning.
Yeah.
To just try and beat the heat and beat the sun.
Yeah. And
get them in and settled and eating before the heat hits.
Yeah, and at Dairy Week when it's really hot, we try to rinse them off in the wash bay every hour or 2 hours, and we've got a couple industrial air conditioners to try keep it as cool as possible. I think every cow has one fan each too, so but that's probably one of the biggest challenges. Charlie, do you have a question?
I think Charlie had a question here in the chat. He wanted to know what you do with all the milk.
as in from the farm. There's about 10 to 12 milk companies in Victoria. We recently just changed companies in the previous week and signed a 4-year contract that will go direct to the biggest supermarket in the country. So we'll just go into fresh milk. I think as a country, we're mainly an export country, so most of our milk goes out in milk powder to either Japan or China. Yeah, and a lot of whey products. It all goes out in bags to mainly the Asian markets. This photo here is a photo of a Bontino daughter out of the Lovelace family. She's a cow Stacey and myself actually sold, and we're really excited to see someone, the Fishers bought this cow and she went on to be honourable mention. I think Bontino's been used fairly heavily in Canada in the past 12 months, so we're pretty excited to see how that works out. Another concept which I think is starting to happen in Canada too, but we have a concept called an on-farm challenge, which began about 25 years ago here in Australia, where the judges go to the farms and score the cows. And in our local club, Jersey Club, we have about 200 milk cows entered in it every year. They score these cows on 22 traits and 40, and they're out of 40, so a cow can get a maximum of 880. 880 points. I've had the privilege to judge quite a few of these, and they're really nice. You can go all over the country and you probably see a lot of cows that you wouldn't see otherwise from different farmers that don't show, etc. And it's a good way of seeing cows from different farms that you would never see. That's the Bonita cow, and so every area has a local area, and then there's a state championship, and then from the state championship there's an Australian championship which they do on videos, and this cow was the champion 4-year-old, I think back in 2017 for all of Australia. This is one of it, and the cows just get shown in their working clothes as they are, no halters, you're not meant to clip them, you can just you probably should wash them, but this cow made a mess of herself that day, so anyway, that happens, but just in their natural habitat, just in the small yard, the judge just comes in and scores them as they see them. This is a Van Alem cow that went 93 points. Classification is very important to us on this farm, getting an extra opinion, working out where we can improve our cows. I think I had a look last night. We've now scored, we've got one 94-point cow we've bred, 13 93s, and I think my father's now bred nearly 450 excellent cows, which I'm quite proud of him for. He does a pretty good job of that, and breeding's his passion. So yeah, classification is quite important to us, and depth of family. This is one of our favourite cows. I think she's 8 years old. She's had 7 calves now. As you can see, this is what it looks like in the middle of summer. There's not a lot of grass to eat, and that's the changing landscape, a lot different to the photos I showed earlier with lush green grass. So it changes throughout the year. I had someone asked about bulls earlier. We've been lucky enough to put some handy enough bulls into AI. Probably, you may not have heard of him over there. The most famous one we put into AI with a group of partners was Van Alem, who's probably one of the most successful bulls in Australia, just as really good dairy commercial cows, and had a lot of success at shows too. Most recently, we put a bull in called Askin, who, talking to a guy in Quebec, I think is finally going to land in Canada in the next week or so. These are 3 Arskin daughters here. He was a bull that actually missed AI, and we ran with our heifers, and I think we ended up with 14 of them. Now they're 4-year-olds. I think we've got a 93, a couple 92, and then a few 91 point scored ones. Yeah, he's a bull we're really proud of. I think he's gone to 7 or 8 different countries now, including Europe, New Zealand, and North America. Yeah, and in the middle of this photo, Casey Morey's holding one of them. She came and helped us at Dairy Week last time I was on. I think she's from Alberta. So
Alberta.
She was really good help, and we love having people from all over the world and meeting them and hearing their story. In this photo, I think they were 3rd, 7th, and 8th. These in the Junior 3 at Dairy Week. And we love seeing success from our bulls in other countries and other herds, and hopefully having a positive impact. Here's a daughter of another bull, Aldrin, that was in New Zealand. We really like the look of this daughter, and yeah, we hope what we put into AI can have a positive impact. We talked about Arskin. Well, this is one of my all-time favourite cows. She's the dam of Arskin. We recently lost her, but she lived to be a milking cow at 13. I think she had 9 lactations, and yeah, looked good every day she did it, and the kind of cow we aim to breed. Here's a photo of me and Stacey at, I think it was Lindsay, was it? Summer show. Something I'm quite jealous of Canada is your 4-H program, and it's quite impressive, and I wish we had something similar growing up. I think this is Stacey in her final year of 4-H. To me, it's quite impeccable. Like in Australia, I don't know if it's the same over there, we're starting to get a disconnect between the country and the city, and understanding where the food and agriculture fits into it. And like, I think this Stacey, her parents was a police officer and a banker, and here she is in Australia working in agriculture. Like, if more of the world has programs like this, the better off we'll be, even if it's to understand where your food and that comes from. So yeah, in terms of youth programs in Australia, we don't really have any formalised youth programs. But what we do have is at the major shows, they have a thing called a youth challenge, where they your local area, I imagine it'll be like your 4-H club has a team of 10 competitors, and they will have 3 people do handling, 4 people clip a heifer, and 3 people do judging, and they'll be judged as a team. I was lucky enough to judge at Dairy Week with my good friend Simon Tognola on the left a few years back. I think it's quite a nice concept, and it taught me a lot growing up, and you made a lot of friends. In terms of the clipping, you get half an hour to clip a heifer between the 4 ears, which is quite challenging because some of them, the animals aren't quite as well trained, but when you're judging it, you judge on how well you work together, safety and overall presentation. In terms of the judging, there is 3 judges. 1 will speak on the microphone and the other 2 will do their placings, and then they'll be judged on their reasons and how close they got to the over judges. And then the handlers, they have to lead it in unison, and they're judged as a team on how they present together. And yeah, that was always a pretty cool concept, and I know a lot of people enjoy it, and there's probably the biggest crowd for the week at Dairy Week with all the family members coming to watch. Generally, in years gone by, the week prior or 2 weeks before, they hold a youth camp down in Melbourne, and this is probably some of my better memories of showing, and I've made lifelong friends here. This is where we went to learn to clip and lead and eat general cow husbandry. There's also days where you'd go to some of the leading farms throughout Victoria and see what they do and ask them questions. And then there's a final presentation day where you get judged on your clipping and your leading and your handling. But I think the best thing to come out of it was just the friendships that you had for life. The first year I went, well, in our wedding party, 2 of the mentors are going to be in it that I met, and they were mentors a few years older. Like, yeah, I think that's the best thing about the industry, the people you meet and the connections you have. Looks like we have some questions by the looks.
Yeah, I was just going to go to a few questions before you moved on. I think the first one is, how long have you farmed for?
So as a farm, we're the 3rd generation, so 1963. Dad took over when he was 16. Mum and Dad bought the farm in 2002. I've been back, I say part-time for 5 or 6 years, but I've always been involved and loved it. And yeah, since a young age, ever since I come back from university. And Stacey's been here 4 years.
Amazing. And the next question is, what do you feed the cows?
Yep. So we feed them mainly, so most of the year pasture, they'll probably get 8 to 10 kilograms. On the Jersey cows, we try to work on 19 to 20 kilos dry matter, but they eat pasture. They will get a grain mix, which is made up of cracked maize or corn, cracked twice a day in a dairy, cracked wheat and barley, and some soybean, plus some minerals. And then on top of that, we grow lucerne or alfalfa, some wheat and hay or silage. That probably rounds out most of it. So hay, silage, pasture, and a grain mix with some minerals is what we feed them.
And then this might be a tough question to answer, but what is the best cow on your farm?
That is a very tough question. Right now, it would be the Van Alem Love Lies cow that was reserve champion at Dairy Week 2 years ago. But there's probably 4 cows that I can't really split. The Mavis cow that we recently lost, the Bonita cow, who we sold to a partnership, and there's a cow, Earl and Sandy. She's a 93-point cow. Her dam was a 93-point cow I showed, and I think she's 17 generations out of 18 excellent. They're probably my 4 favourite cows ever. I don't really want to split them between them.
And then Daniel, the next question is, and you can hold this one if you're going to get into talking about your judging career, but the question is, how many shows have you judged?
I think total about 18 I had a count, ranging in sizes and...
Oh, have you seen my question yet? The worst question. Yeah, because I forgot.
Sorry, I think someone just forgot to mute themselves.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, 18 shows. Probably the best part about that is I used to love feeding cows, but judging is probably my favourite thing to do. But the best thing about it is judging cows has taken me to every state of this country, and it's met new people, and yeah, it's something I really enjoy doing. There was 18 shows, and I think about 15 on-farm challenges, which I think they've taken to me 4 different states also. So.
And it's been all breeds,
yeah,
everything from calves to milkers.
Yeah, yeah, and I've probably talked a lot about jerseys, and I do love jerseys, but yeah, I'm open to any breed. I think a cow's good. Yeah, I love judging any kind of breed of cows. and it's something I hope to continue in the future if I get asked.
And have you judged any in outside of Australia?
No, not as yet. That is the dream one day, but yeah, you got to have a lot of experience to be able to do that. And I guess we're only 29, so hopefully somewhere down the track.
Well, we have a lot of 4-H counties on the line tonight who hold shows, so now we have a new contact.
And you have two people that want to get back to Canada as soon as possible.
Excellent. So Austin, I think that was Austin chatting earlier. He has a question about the oldest cow on your farm.
Yep.
Can you describe the oldest?
Yeah, that probably, I think, 13 years old is the oldest we have, which in our system, cows, they breed back every year after year, because we don't do a lot of embryo work or anything like that. If they calve in, we breed them back that same breeding season. So yeah, I think she was 13 years old and she had 9 or 10 calves. So certainly cows that owe us nothing at all, and the kind of cow that we aim to breed. Great question though, Austin.
Excellent. And I think Payton has her hand up.
Have you ever imported cows like that you've bought from Canada, or same with like bull semen?
We ourselves haven't imported any, but currently we're working with a daughter of Brylan Spritz, the reigning champion at World Dairy Expo. So we own a premier directly out of her that we bought as a calf. She was reserve reserve honorable mention at one of our bigger shows recently. But yeah, we have just a few families from all over the world we're trying to work with, and yeah, it's something. We recently implanted some embryos out of a cow from North America. They're only just been put in, so I won't mention the name of the cow. Hopefully they'll hold, and we'll hear from them in the future. But yeah, as a farm, we really believe in cow families, and it's something that we're focusing on, trying to get into the best families throughout the world. And we use a lot of semen from North America, probably 50% North American and 50% Australian.
Excellent. I think we're good on questions if you want to keep going with your slides.
We're gonna have to make sure it's right.
We might make sure we get to the right photo here before, because every time we ask questions, we seem to have an issue of scrolling forward. What photo do you see at the moment?
Yeah, we can see a lovely looking pictured cow.
Is that an Illawarra? Did I say that right?
You did see an Illawarra. This cow here is Wallam Lamb's Sunstorm. She is an Illawarra. That's an indigenous breed to Australia. It's probably like your milking shorthorn, I believe. This is probably one of the most successful cow I've ever owned. She was the first ever cow to win Supreme All Breeds outside the Holstein and Jersey at International Dairy Week. She was also the first Illawarra to go Excellent 95. Yeah, she's a cow that I have a lot of time for. This was the first year she won. I owned her with my two good friends, Ben Govett and Glenn Gordon. She lives up at Goreboro Holsteins. Goreboro Holsteins, I think, were the premier exhibitor or breeder at International Dairy Week 2 years ago. Yeah, this cow, she's been supreme at International Dairy Week twice, and she's won her breed 3 times. She was a cow we bought off Terry Titcomb, an older guy that was retiring out of dairy farming. We paid a fair bit of money for the Illawarra cow at the time, but it's probably in terms of memories, the best investment we've ever made. This is probably my favourite photo ever from showing cows. As you can see, she's brought us a lot of excitement and happiness. All the hard work pays off on days like this and photos like that, the memories you make, and to be able to do it with some of your best friends is even more exciting.
And Daniel, can you tell us a little bit about that breed? Like, you said it was comparable to a milking shorthorn. Are there any other special things about them?
It's a breed that started in Australia in the early 1900s, I believe. They're meant to be a little bit more heat tolerant. This breed, I think, that might be 5% of dairy cows in the country at most would be Illawarras. They've got high components. Yeah, it's one of the major breeds. I'd say it's probably, in terms of the major dairy breeds, the third highest in this country. I think it would go, yeah, Holsteins, Jerseys, in terms of Illawarras, then probably Ayrshires and then Brown Swiss. So it's quite a popular breed in this country. And yeah, I said earlier, I like cows of every breed, and as long as they're good, and that's why we bought this cow, and probably some of the best memories we have. And yeah, just one of my clients down the road, about half an hour from here, milks about 600, a full herd of Illawarras, 600 of them. And in terms of commercial reality, they punch out as much milk as any herd. So they definitely have their place. And I think there is some Illawarra semen out of this cow has gone to North America. I'm pretty sure Canada and US and maybe Europe. So she has a couple of bulls in AI and had a real impact on the breed. Any more questions regarding Illawarras or? This photo here is of my time when I went to America after university. These are some fond memories. I spent 6 weeks over there, and the best thing about it was, I think out of that 6 weeks, there was only 4 or 5 nights I had to spend in a hotel. Met some really cool people. Got to help with Kitely Core, the Core family down in Kentucky. That week we got a couple of All-Americans ready, but just some of them probably learned as much about showing dairy cows and hard work as I ever have this week down in Kentucky, and something I'll never forget. But just wanted to use this photo to show you dairy cows can take you anywhere all over the world. I think because of agriculture and dairy cows, I've been to New Zealand nearly 10 times getting cows ready for shows. Been to North America, got to help at Ontario Summer Show with Gary Troop, and because of agriculture, I spent 3 weeks in China seeing some things that you'd never experience otherwise. So yeah, just wanted to use this photo to highlight where agriculture can take you and the friendships you can make. And similar to the previous photo, I think this is in Toronto watching a basketball game, a couple of local Ontario people, just friendships that you make from helping at shows and traveling to different parts of the world, and friends you will have forever. Anything to add on that? And then just to finish off, just some of the cows that I really admire from some of my friends in this country. One of the owners of the Illawarra cow, Ben Govett, owns about 200 Brown Swiss cows, and this was probably my favourite cow of all time from the Brown Swiss breed. I think she's 8 years here. She was grand champion. She's 93 points, and just a cow I love for her power and openness. She's an absolute sweetheart to work with. Probably one of my favourite cows I ever got to fit was Talent Randall. This is at Bendigo Winter Fair, which is the second biggest Holstein show in the country. She was grand champion that day, and once again got to work with a good friend, Nick Flanagan. Yeah, this was a highlight, being able to compete in the Holstein world, and do really well there. And the last photo I think I have is, this is Sancho's Shimmer. We took 2 cows up to, me and my other friend Glenn Gordon, up to near Sydney to the New South Wales Holstein show. And yeah, she was reserve champion this day. It was just us two and another good friend that works for CMEX. Went up there for the week and really enjoyed the travel. And I think the cow would be close to making $200,000 for the Gorebro Holsteins, and the cow that I think everyone throughout the country loves. So, and very last photo is a photo, that's close to us. 2 of my best friends within the industry, and I know I keep harping on about it, but this industry is at its best when you're with people that you really enjoy working with. And bring Mitchell, the guy in the middle, is one of my good friends, and we showed cows since we were, since I met him, 15 together, worked closely, and this is one of his favourite memories ever. I went to his house recently, and it's blown up big on his wall, and it's winning Supreme All Breeds pen of 3 at Sydney for his parents, and he's really proud of it. And he was, we're really excited to do it with 3 close friends. So I guess that's all I have in terms of photos. So we'll probably go back to questions if there is any.
Yeah, we have a few questions rolling in here. So maybe the first one is, how many cows are in your herd?
On the farm, there'd be about 550 animals total right now. But yeah, right now we've just dried a bunch of cows off, so we're milking 195 as we speak.
And what North American semen are you using on the farm, if any?
Currently, we're using a bull called Kearse. We're milking about 12 of them, and they're really happy. We went back, and I think we got about 200 doses in the tank. Another bull called Bosa, who's a chrome son. Last year we used Candyman. We're milking 10 to 15 casinos at the moment. We're using a little bit of webcam in places at the moment, which is a Canadian bull. Other than that, probably bulls that are influenced with a lot of our bloodlines go back to American bulls and Canadian bulls. Bulls like T-Bone have had a big impact on our herd in terms of producing flat-bone dairy cows. So yeah, they're probably the main ones.
And what about, Daniel, what about other Jersey bulls you're using? Not necessarily North American, but what are your other favorites?
Probably at the moment, we've used a lot of a bull called Invincible, which is an Australian bull. I think they're trying to work on getting him overseas at the moment. He's out of the Vanessa family. We've used Askin fairly heavily, but we're probably pulling up a little bit now because you just got to be wary not to use too many of your own bulls. The bull called Borung we're using fairly heavily. Other than that, we're waiting on a bull called Bushfield, which is a bull we produce ourselves. His dam was just Supreme Intermediate All Breeds at Sydney, and he's a bull that we're looking for because we're trying to find Jersey bulls that have a bit more strength and increased daughter fertility. So he's a bull we're quite excited about. But in terms of Australian Jersey bulls as a whole, we're pretty excited to see bulls like Bontino and Askin and Ferdinand getting imported into Canada and North America. And I think it's good for the whole Jersey industry if we can use bulls from different countries and keep forging forward.
And just a question coming in here. Since you've been to shows in both Canada and like around the world and Australia, is there a difference in what showing is like, or is it fairly similar?
Fairly similar.
I think the longer it's gone, it's getting similar and similar, just through the fact that a lot of fitters and people are traveling throughout the world. Like generally in our string at dairy week, we'll have 2 or 3 people from North America. Cole Yule from Nova Scotia usually comes and helps clip our cows and stays like and then travel. We've been, well, before COVID, it was such a small world. Everyone got to different countries, so they learn things from each other and find ways to get better. In terms of cows, I think there's slight differences between countries, but most of the countries, the best cows will compete in every other country from what I've seen. Well, Dairy Expo for me is still the pinnacle, and it'll take a lot of catching up to get to, but yeah, in terms of the depth of shows and that, most countries are fairly similar.
Question here from Charlie. I'm not sure, Charlie, if I understand it, but do you breed 2020? Can you maybe
That
tell
must
us
be
what that means, Charlie?
Does he mean
It's-
A2?
Yeah.
A2, yes, that is something we're heavily focused on. In the last 5 years, recently with the genomic testing, I think our herd's up to about 75% completely A2. So hopefully over the next 5 years, we will get to that point. With the milk company we're currently at, that we just signed with, we don't have to be A2, but with the way the industry is going, we'd rather be than not be going forward, because there is a premium for A2 milk currently as we speak. So, and with most bulls these days getting that way, something we're chasing. The other thing we do try to breed for is polled. I think this bunch of last 40 calves, we probably had 5 to 10 around that number that were polled. The bulls that we choose still have to be good enough and fit all our other criteria, but if we can, we'd prefer them to be polled, and that's another reason we're excited for the bull Bushfield, because he is a polled bull. Thanks for the question, Charlie.
And another question here. What's it like moving from Canada to Australia?
It's pretty similar, actually. Day to day, I'm a lot more isolated here than I was in Font Hill. However, Dan and his family have been really accommodating, and day-to-day life is pretty much the same. Food's not that much different, I would say.
I do miss chicken wings.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been great. Easy transition.
Excellent. All right, I'm, I think, caught up on all the questions. Any other questions from our members on the line? You're welcome to type it in the chat box, or you can also raise your hand and ask a question. Just give everybody a minute.
How are you guys?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
Back here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Using genomic testing and classify it, how do you decide which ones to keep and which ones to use sex semen on?
Sorry, can you start over? It's really in and out.
The pieces I heard, Daniel, if it helps, were about classification. So not sure if you have a classification system.
I think what she was asking was using the different tools like classification and genomics. How do you decide what animals sex semen? I think is what she was asking.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard.
That's you.
Yeah. So, some reason I'm playing back to myself.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I'll just try to fix it for you. If everybody can just make sure their lines are muted.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Amanda. So at the moment, we actually have a spreadsheet at home on every single cow on the farm with their complete Australian genomics. Then we have their sire stack, and we have their production, and what else do we have? Classification, and then we'll go through and have a ranking on every single cow within the herd, and it will either be an A, a B, a C. So A will be a cow that will keep a bull out of. B will be a cow that, so A is generally sex semen, B will get conventional semen, and C is probably the bottom end of our herd that will get beef semen. As a rule, we try to work everything in to get a whole picture. Yeah, so we try to place equal emphasis on production type, longevity, and pedigree, and try to make sure every cow has an opportunity to have no holes in that pedigree. Every cow on the farm gets scored. I think at the moment we average nearly 89 points. Every 2-year-old gets scored. And we're part of a program within Australia called GINFO, which all our genomic scores are done and put into the system. I think there's about 30 or 40 herds within just to build up the database. So yeah, it's quite a complex scenario, but it's something Dad and myself and Stacey and Mum are quite passionate about, the breeding side of things. So yeah, we go from there. Generally, they have to have reasonable production to get AI semen into them, because yeah, we really that's our number one focus: highly commercial cattle that pay their way first of all, and with really good udders.
All right, and we have a question from Cam.
Do you have a favorite North American show cow or a family of jerseys that you really like from North America?
Yes, we do. There's probably a couple that it's hard to narrow it down. Like, we're really excited about the Spritz calf we have. The Snow family from Bryland's something we've always been excited about. Also, obviously, Veronica is probably my all-time favourite cow, and she's probably appears to be one of the best breeding cows of all time. We have a daughter of Charlotte, a VIP out of Charlotte, which we're excited about. We're also lucky enough to be working with a heifer in Canada at the moment. Brienne actually has a Gunman Emerald that we own in partnership with her and Diabelba, which we're really excited about. So hopefully we can get over there and see her at some point. But yeah, probably the Veronica line and the Snow line are my two favourite lines. And another family that I'd love to get into at some point is the Navidad family, or that line, or the Farron line of that family. But yeah, that would probably be my favourite three.
And there's another question here. What beef breeds do you breed to the jerseys?
Flex.
Yeah, currently Limflex, which is a Limo Angus, is it? That all our, with Stacey's work, there's an alliance with CMX that we have to use semen from there, so we're using Limflex over Jersey. We have tried Charolais, and they do make good calves, but they're probably on the borderline of being too big, so we've come back to Limflex, and they appear to be doing really well for us.
Okay, any other questions for Stacey and Daniel? Last chance, if you can type in the chat or just you can unmute yourself and shut your question out. All right, Stacey and Daniel. Oh, I see somebody lighting up here. Last chance, members, before I give them the opportunity to say some closing words.
I can't hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, thanks.
Did you have a question?
No, I was just testing if it worked.
Okay. Maybe one last question for you, Stacey and Daniel. What's your favorite memory from showing cows?
Oh, goodness. I'd have to say potentially just recently traveling up to Sydney. It was the first time that we'd ever want to interbreed Supreme. And it's something Daniel had been wanting to go to Sydney show for so many years. So it was really great that he got the opportunity to do it and that we got to do it together.
And what about you, Daniel?
That's probably, yeah, it's down to a couple. That one was very special to me because that's probably the first show I worked at outside our own cows, and I went up to Sydney and there was a show, like the facilities up there are incredible and it's just a relaxed atmosphere. So to be able to go up there for the first time with a couple of animals and compete and do really well was exciting. The time Sunstorm won Supreme the first time will be unforgettable, especially at such a young age. You just didn't see it coming. And probably last Dairy Week when we won Premier Breeder and Exhibitor, that was probably the most exciting thing for me because we're the ones here probably talking, but Mum and Dad are the ones that done all the work and build up what we've got, and very proud to have had, and to give them the reward for the effort of a lot of years of hard work and making good decisions and stuff like that. It's, yeah, to show 10 milk cows and have 4 class winners is exciting. So that show in general just was probably a really good memory of mine, and working with some of my close friends that come from all over the country, and having Stacey lead my first ever class winner that we bred ourselves was, yeah, just that a whole 7 days was probably the best show I've ever been a part of.
That's amazing. And for all the young 4-Hers on the line who are interested in dairy, any advice you'd give them?
Do you want to go first or do you want me to?
Go for it.
I guess just work hard and ask plenty of questions and stay humble where you can, and yeah, surround yourself by good people and you'll go a long way and you'll get to where you want. It's probably what, yeah, it's helped me to achieve what I've wanted to achieve is, yeah, getting the right mentors, like, yeah, a couple of my friends, Ben Govett and Glenn Gordon and Pat Nicholson and that, and asking the right people, and yeah, you can get to wherever you want to get if you do the right things and work really hard and make the most of your opportunities when you get given them.
And I would say just go in as many 4-H clubs as you can. Doesn't matter whether it's scrapbooking or dairy or beef or goats. Any opportunity you can take it, and you never know where you will end up. And not everyone can have the chances, so you might as well take them.
That's great advice, especially coming from someone who ended up on the other side of the world, right?
Probably not what most parents want to hear, though.
I'm sure it's incredible. And one more question here. Will we see you back at the Royal Winter Fair ever?
As soon as we can get there. We've had
Perfect.
plans the past few years to come back, and unfortunately just haven't been able to travel.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we tell all our speakers that we've got a lot of keen 4-H members who are hoping to make their way to the Royal Winter Fair. So they're keeping track of all our speakers, and they're going to be sure to say hello if they see you at the Royal.
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much for having us on today and thinking of us.
So I'm going to turn it over before we let you go to Christian, who's got a few words for you on behalf of the group.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Daniel and Stacy, for talking about your operation and your experiences in the show ring.
Excellent. Thanks, Christian. And thanks again, Daniel and Stacy. And to all our 4-H members across the province and the leaders, you'll remember this, we were going to have a number of these speaker series throughout the summer. So leaders, stay tuned. We'll get the next one planned, and we'll share the details with all your leaders. And hopefully we'll come back together 1 or 2 more times before the end of the summer. Hopefully everyone's having a really great time in their local 4-H clubs as well. And we're all still hopeful that we'll get to see each other later this year once the COVID restrictions start to loosen up. So thanks again, Daniel and Stacy, and it's been a real pleasure to have you with us. And to everybody across the province, have a great night, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks, Christian, and thanks everyone for the opportunity.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.